new phone came in last week. Very exciting. The iPhone XR, which you've heard us talk about already. So that came in last week, but my case had not yet come in. And I did not even want to take it out of the box until I had a case to put it in. So it stayed very safely in its protective little shell in the house on top of my dresser all weekend. So whenever we got home from the weekend, I slipped my phone in the case and started getting everything loaded up on it, letting everything download, everything update. So I've now been using my new phone exclusively for the last few hours or so. And I like it. I was concerned about not liking it. It's definitely bigger than I'd like. And some of the new maneuvers with it are definitely going to take some time for me to get used to. I still keep dragging from the bottom up to access my control panel. And that's not how you do that anymore. So I think in one sitting, I had my phone in my hand and I was trying to pause my podcast. And I swiped from the bottom up and it took me home. And I swiped from the bottom up again and it still kept me home. And I tried it one more time, swiping again from the bottom up. And it didn't do anything because that's not where the control panel is. I think I'm getting better at it, but it is going to take practice.
I'm glad you like it.
I do.
One more piece of follow-up. I previously mentioned that my near retirement age coworker was thinking about buying an RV at my suggestion. Not really my suggestion, but
your inspiration.
At my inspiration.
Yeah.
He bought a truck this weekend.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd he get?
He mentioned it very casually. He was very coy about it. But he was saying that the roads were bad in their new vehicle. And I said what I was going to say after that, and I was like, wait a second, new vehicle? What? So he got I think 2017 Ford F-250.
Nice. What color is it?
Light gray.
Ooh.
One feature it has that I really wish ours had was the metal front. I don't know what that's called, but the metal part that goes over the front bumper.
That goes over the front bumper, not the grill?
Yeah, the grill bumper area. A metal bumper of some kind. Anyways, it has that.
Yeah.
I wish ours had that.
It's like a ranch hand? Is that what it's called?
That doesn't sound right.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll put the correct name in the show notes. Anyways, yeah, so that's cool. He's one step closer to getting out on the road.
Good for him. He's been considering doing this for, a couple months, and he's already just as far as we are, and we've been wanting to do it for a year and a half.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's thought of this before, but I don't think it was ever something that really occurred to him that he could really actually do in a serious way.
Yeah.
I made a few updates to the website, heydeans.com. So now we have an actual landing page. Previously, when you went to the website, it just dumped you on the blog page, which is fine. But now we have a real homepage that has links to the rest of the site, has our gear page on there, has a little fun tag cloud, links to all the different kind of projects we do, video projects, the podcast, my photography. It's still not finished yet by any means. I need to post a portfolio and add a map to our blog and lots of things like that. But it's further along.
It looks very sharp. He did a good job.
Thanks, honey.
Well, my big day has finally come. There's now a dog in my house again.
Not right this second. The dog is actually outside, barking.
You may hear her barking.
Because she's upset that she's outside.
Not even necessarily upset that she's outside, but upset that she is not with us. With someone. It really wouldn't even have to be us, just somebody.
Do you think we could get a scarecrow to be with her?
Yeah, like a little stuffed Shelby and stuffed Nate.
Is she as dumb as crows are?
No, she's very smart. Anyways, her name is Princess. I got her when I was a child. I don't want to hear any gruff about her name. It's very cute, and she's very cute. I got her when I was in elementary school. She's now, I believe, 12. And she has been living with my mom for the past 5 years since Nate and I got married.
What kind of dog is she?
Great question, Nate. She is a miniature long-haired dachshund, black with brown markings. She's actually part long hair, part short hair. So her ears have long fur and her tail has long fur, and she has long fur in between her cute little toes, like the Grinch or something. Her little Grinchy toes. She's very cute. Whenever she lives outside, primarily, she gets all scruffy all over. Anyway, so the time was finally right for us to be able to bring her here. My sweet, sweet, sweet husband, who loves me very much, has known of my longing for a furry friend in my home. And as part of my birthday gift, he kind of gave the green light to go ahead and bring her home.
If anyone happens to be listening that doesn't personally know us, which is doubtful, but if anyone is, you might know that Shelby is a huge fan of dogs, and I am not.
Yes.
I don't dislike dogs, but they just are inconvenient.
Yeah.
And I don't like them enough to make all those inconveniences worth it.
Yes.
It is worth it to make Shelby happy.
Aw. I will be taking full responsibility for all of her care. Just like when you're a little kid and you make a PowerPoint slideshow to show your parents to try to convince them to buy you a puppy. And they say, well, we'll get you a puppy, but you have to take it on a walk every day and feed it all the time. That's kind of the arrangement that Nate and I made.
I hope it's not too similar to that, because my understanding is that PowerPoint usually goes out the window in about 2 weeks, and then the parents do everything for the puppy.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll have that problem, though.
No.
As we mentioned in the previous episode, we went to Oklahoma City this weekend to visit friends and see a concert. For all of elementary school, my family lived in Nacogdoches, where we live now. But for part of middle school and part of high school, my family moved to Oklahoma City. So I have a lot of really good friends there. I think that time in your life in later middle school and early high school is when a lot of people start to really make lifelong friends, or at least potentially lifelong friends. So I just have a lot of deep roots there. And even with like friends' parents, like we got there on Friday night and, talked for a bit, but mostly just went straight to bed. We left here right after work at 5, so we didn't get there till about midnight. But Saturday morning after breakfast, we spent the whole morning and about half the afternoon playing cards with my friends' parents, because they're just as important as their friends are.
These were, of course, all relationships that Nate had, way before we ever met. But really, as soon as we really started dating, I just felt very, included in the friend group. Because they're all really great, awesome, nice people in general. And I also like them. And they at least like Nate, so I have a little bit of an in already. But, the past, 7 years now, these folks have been my friends too, and it's been awesome.
Yeah. And one of the other friends also is married to a great guy. Just like Shelby, he wasn't a longtime member of the friend group and doesn't know all of our little in-jokes and things like that. But he just plays along just like Shelby does, and it feels like all of us have been friends forever.
Yeah, they're just such a great group of folks. And we got to see most of them.
Yeah. It's always difficult when you're going back to some place and you have very limited time to try to budget out what sites are important to see, what restaurants are important to eat at, what friends are important to see. Generally, I kind of aim conservative because I find that when I try to do too much in too small of a time, it is difficult to enjoy any of it. So in our case, I only really spent time with about 6 friends in total. That's a pretty small number, and there's lots more people that I would like to see, ideally. But it's kind of one of those things like, well, you have really limited number of meals. It can be a little awkward to just meet someone out of their element, especially if you're not as good of friends and haven't kept up as much. It's nice to meet them for a meal Or like I went back to my old church and saw a lot of friends there at church on Sunday morning. But it's a little bit more strange to just kind of come over to someone's house. Unless we're really good friends, I generally it's just hard to make that work. Unless I can see you in some other context or have an extra lunch or something. But even then, you know, our meals and our time is limited.
Yeah. You know, there wasn't any of our time that we were really spending one-on-one with anybody. It was all in quite a bit of a group context to maximize time with these people. It was an awesome time to hang out with friends, and even if we weren't there with friends, all of the activities that we did were also really enjoyable. So even if it was like just us by ourselves, it would have been great. Or even if it was just us with the friends and we just sat around, that would have been great too. But it was all that stuff.
Yeah. So we hung out with friends all day, Saturday and Sunday, while we were there. In the morning and early afternoon on Saturday, we played a really fast-paced game called Nertz.
Which, by fast-paced, he means incredibly stressful and intense for Shelby.
Life-shortening.
Yeah.
Stressful. Super competitive.
Every game you play takes about 30 days off your life. Approximately.
We used to play this with our friends and their parents. Well, with some of the friends' parents. The mom loves to play and is a total beast at it. Probably her daughter's a little bit better, but she's extremely good. And to be clear, they're both literally miles ahead of me. But the dad, he doesn't even try. Like, it just flusters him and makes him upset. Not upset at us, it just hurts his brain.
We got over to their house and we were standing around talking, you know, shooting the breeze. It was a really good time. And once we were like, all right, well, shall we sit down and play a game of Nertz? Their dad was like, all right, cool. I'm going to go to the library and literally do my taxes because I would rather do that than be here playing Nertz with y'all. And
not only does he not want to play, I don't think he even wants to be there when we're playing. Which, again, is understandable. Like, this is a high-stakes game.
Yeah.
We also spent some time downtown. That's where the concert was on Saturday night. We really didn't do anything in particular. We had some pizza. We walked around.
We were down in the Plaza District, and there's some cool shopping. So we went to a little thrift store, antique shop, I think called Bad Granny's, which, I mean, that name had me hooked already. And there was so much to see there. I could have just bought that whole store. But instead, I bought a patch and 2 little buttons, so.
And then we wandered around downtown and got in line for the concert. There were 2 different sections, the balcony and then the floor. Both were general admission, so you did need to get there early as you wanted to get a good seat.
Waiting in line was a whole event in and of itself. The girl in line in front of us was like very sociable and ready to interact with us as a group. But for her, it was mostly just like an opportunity to talk about all the concerts that she's been to, which is fine, you know.
She was very proud of all the concerts she's been to and will be going to.
Yes. And she has been to a lot of great shows, so I totally get it. The staff there, that was something else.
This is a newer theater, and it shows pretty well. The staff weren't very well trained. The theater itself was pretty nice, but clearly parts of it were very temporary until they had more money to finish it out. Like, for instance, we were on the balcony, and they had, instead of just like your normal kind of stadium seating, they still had that, but it was just like temporary risers and folding chairs. Not the most comfortable, not the best situation.
Did not feel very safe at all.
I felt safe enough, but it clearly was a temporary Band-Aid until they made enough money to afford proper stadium seating.
Yeah.
If we didn't mention before, we were going to see Death Cab for Cutie, which is a indie rock band. They've been around since the 90s at some point. I don't know how long.
They're really incredible. I didn't really know what to expect from their show. I feel like indie concerts can be a little bit more unpredictable, I guess. I feel like there's more room for them to play the show how they want. And so sometimes that means that they're not really playing much off the record, or, you know, they're just kind of loosely following the songs. But this was pretty much just straight off the album.
Yeah, this was a pretty by-the-book concert. There wasn't much talking or much banter at all between Ben Gibbard is the lead singer, between Ben and the audience. One common complaint among touring bands is that they only play their new songs, maybe the last album or two. And of course, everyone who's been listening to the band for a long time likes the old stuff better. That's just almost always the way it is.
Or at least knows it better.
Yeah. Probably the old stuff is what made you a fan of the band and made you want to buy tickets to their concert. So, if nothing else, you'll just be more nostalgic for the old stuff, whether or not it's better. But Death Cab did a great job of mixing it up. I mean, they definitely had lots of new stuff. I frankly have not listened to their last two albums very much at all. I don't know. I think I just stopped listening to new music. I'm now officially old. They played plenty off of that. I enjoyed all of it. I hadn't heard any of it before, but it was fine. But they also played a lot of their greatest hits, a lot of their older stuff, a lot of stuff that I wouldn't expect from their older albums. Mm-hmm. And it was just wonderful. But it was a nice mix between the two. It was just a really well put together show. They had professional lights. The sound was great. I wish Ben's vocals had been a little bit higher.
Yeah, I could have heard
Sometimes he got
more.
buried. But it was great. One of the only bits of banter that he had was telling us what a great city we were, which I'm sure he tells every city that. I will say this was a particularly energetic crowd. Shelby and I have been to a lot of concerts before, and this seemed like a pretty hyped up crowd. But he told us that he was almost ready to forgive us as a city, Oklahoma City, for stealing the Sonics. There used to be an NBA team called the Seattle Sonics, which was bought by a group of businessmen in Oklahoma City. And I think there was just a handshake deal. Maybe it was legal, I don't know. But there was some sort of understanding that once they bought that franchise, it would just stay in Seattle. And surprise, surprise, if you have a bunch of Oklahoma City businessmen buy your NBA team, they're going to want to move it to their city, which is what they did. And I listened to several podcasts with Seattleites, and that's definitely a very sore subject for them, the fact that Oklahoma City stole the Sonics. So I thought it was very moving that he said he was almost ready to forgive the city for that great sin.
I, being not interested in sports and also not being an Oklahoma City resident at any point, had no idea what he was talking about. I assumed it had to do with the basketball team because as far as I know, that's the only sports ball team that Oklahoma City has.
It is. Well, as far as professional, we have, or fully professional, there is a minor league hockey team and a minor league baseball team, but the Thunder is what they're now called.
Who are very good, and I generally like them.
Yeah, but the Thunder was very unifying because everyone loves the minor league hockey team, everyone loves the minor league baseball team, but there's only so excited you can get for a minor league team. And there was no one single team or even sport period to unite the whole state. I mean, there's a huge rivalry between OU and OSU over college football and college basketball, but that's not uniting. I mean,
one could say it's divisive.
Yes. So having the Thunder, from my perspective, whenever we were there and they were starting up the franchise, was a big boon to the city and to the state because it was one big banner that we could all gather underneath, that we were all Oklahomans and we all loved the OKC Thunder.
As a Texan, it is wild for me to imagine that you needed a sports team to feel like real state pride, that like just being a resident of the state wasn't enough. In Texas, all you need is that you are a Texan. and you can hold hand in hand with all the other Texans and sing Kumbaya in unity, because that's all you need.
Yes, to an extent. I mean, there is a lot of Oklahoma pride, much like there is Texas pride. Much less so compared to Texas, because everything is bigger in Texas. There actually is something unique about the whole state being around one sports team that Texas actually doesn't have, because Texas has basically at least 2 of every version.
Only have one hockey team.
I'm not even sure that's true.
Really?
Does Houston have one? I don't know.
Not that I know of. Clearly, we are not sports fanatics.
We're not big sports ball fans, necessarily. But there's lots of different teams in Texas, both college and professional. Whereas everyone in Oklahoma, the whole state, can get behind the one big team. And there's not even competition between the sports. I mean, there's just basketball. That's it. Anyways, that was a huge tangent.
I have no idea how we even got there.
But I appreciated Ben partially forgiving us in OKC for stealing their basketball team.
That was very kind of him.
Very touching. The concert was great. Sunday morning, like I mentioned before, we went back to my old church, Church of the Servant, and got to hang out with lots of old friends, see how things were different, see all the new remodeling and new staff they'd brought on and all that kind of good stuff. Then we went to our final stop, which was the Medieval Fair of Norman. Norman is a city just about 40 miles south of Oklahoma City. It's where the University of Oklahoma is, so it's very much a college town. Their medieval fair, I believe, is one of the larger fairs in the country.
Really? I didn't even know that.
I believe the Houston Medieval Fair is the largest in the U.S., maybe in the world. This one's very respectable, and I love stuff like that. Medieval fairs are a lot like a carnival or like a state fair, like you'd imagine. But there is a very strong, unique vibe. I mean, they have lots of the same vendors. They have the same fried food, the same funnel cakes, the same hand-squeezed lemonade, all that kind of good stuff. Obviously, there's a huge amount of swords, kilts, people trying to cast spells.
Very good leather goods.
You know, it's called a medieval fair, but really any costume is welcome, any kind of nerd or geekdom. You know, if you have a Star Trek costume, if you have a Spider-Man costume, you just fit right in. Any kind of costume. It's almost like Halloween in April.
Yeah, it's mostly just a fantasy fair. Fantasy of any kind or variety.
Right. I love it. I don't personally cosplay. I barely even do Halloween. I wouldn't consider myself any sort of super nerd by any means, but I do enjoy all of that. I like Lord of the Rings. I like Star Wars. And it's a lot of fun for me to go there and watch everyone else dress up.
I thoroughly enjoyed all of the dogs that were there. There were so many dogs, and they were all very good. Saw a few corgis. There were lots of puppies, like little puppies. There was one little girl who was maybe like 5 carrying around this puppy that was like the size of a large rock. I mean, it was smaller than a foot.
I'm pretty sure there are pecans bigger than that puppy.
Yeah. And she was just carrying it around in her arms, and it was just so little. It was so cute.
I also felt like there was a much bigger variety of dog breeds there, more unusual breeds than you would expect to see just at any old dog park.
Yeah. There was also a wide variety of pets in general. I saw ferrets. I saw one lady, her bearded dragon was just sitting on her chest as they were walking through the park. That was pretty cool.
I saw that too.
People with birds. It was a cool experience.
I'm sure Bird Guy would have fit right in.
Of course, we had wonderful fair food. We started off, first thing we did whenever we got there was we went to the mac and cheese truck. We had Taco Mac, which had corn and tomatoes and cilantro and pork, was it?
I think chicken. shredded chicken.
And that was very good. And our friends got barbecue mac and cheese.
The other set of friends got hamburger mac and cheese, which had hamburger and French fries in it.
I didn't try that one, but the barbecue was good.
It was all good. My sister and I are both generally pretty big fans of turkey legs, which are obviously plentiful at festivals like this. Neither of us really wanted one, so we just kind of went with more unique foods. There is a Indian taco stand that often utilizes workers from organizations to raise money. So like when we were in homeschool choir in Oklahoma, we would actually work for this taco stand, and all of our wages were then put towards a big trip. So my sister and I have at various times talked a lot about these Indian tacos. It's basically just a fry bread with beans and cheese and meat and lettuce and tomato and onion on top. It's extremely good. It's very simple. It's really not even particularly good. I mean, I like it a lot.
It was pretty good.
It was pretty good. But there's nothing, I don't know, there's nothing like crazy unique about it.
Yeah.
But it was very nostalgic. I will say they have a very good recipe for the fry bread. That's kind of the secret sauce for the food truck, as it were. But it was really neat to see them there and to finally have Shelby eat some.
Yeah. I'm glad I got to. It was really good.
We also got some sarsaparilla, I guess, / root beer.
It was easily the worst root beer I've ever had, but it came in some cool glass bottles. So, not a total loss.
I agree. I thought the flavor was pretty good overall. It definitely could have been stronger, and it definitely could have been more carbonated. It basically had none.
There was pretty much no carbonation, and it's not that I need carbonation, but because it didn't have any, it just tasted very watered down.
It tasted flat.
Yeah, because, it was. So that was kind of a bummer. And, we still paid full fair price for it, which is maybe the biggest bummer. But that's okay. The bottle was cool.
It was not very good root beer. Or sarsaparilla. I don't know what it is. They're very similar. I like both. I count them both in the same category.
Sarsaparilla can be cream soda or root beer.
I don't mess with cream soda.
That stuff is nasty.
And I think the last thing we got was
crêpes. We got crêpes. I love crêpes. I don't get enough crêpes. So that was delicious. I had a banana Nutella crepe.
That was the best crepe I've ever had, personally.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Easily.
I've had much better, but even a bad crepe, it's still a crepe, so.
We didn't really buy anything. I mean, I would love to have everything at the fair, pretty much. I would love to have a sword, daggers, chainmail armor, shields, anything like that.
Like I mentioned, so many leather goods, and I'm a sucker for leather. There were these beautiful black leather hats that they would custom shape for your head and custom sew into a particular shape if you wanted. And they were only $45. I was very proud of myself then for not buying one because I don't need a hat.
Correct.
I don't need a hat. I have hats that I've basically never worn outside of this house.
Correct.
Yeah. I actually use them most in my teaching lessons because the kids think it's funny whenever teacher Shelby is wearing 3 hats on top of her giant headphones. Anyways, all that to say, didn't need the hat. I was very proud of myself for not buying the hat. Now that I'm home, I'm disappointed in myself for not buying the hat because what an incredible value, and that hat would look so good on me. Anyways, that was really the only thing that I was tempted to buy.
Overall, the fair was wonderful. One of the only bad parts was that it had rained a pretty good amount, and so the ground was very mucky and very squishy and very muddy, which I do appreciate from a historical perspective because that seems kind of on brand for medieval times to have kind of just a big slosh of water and mud and manure of various kinds. I'm sure all those dogs were pooping somewhere.
I saw quite a few dogs pooping and owners just walking away.
Right.
Which, I mean, you really couldn't tell.
Like I said, it was period accurate. The only thing we needed was bad drinking water and dysentery.
Yeah.
And more BO.
Yeah. I'm really bummed that I didn't get dysentery.
I'm not. I'm happy with my 21st century healthcare.
Yes. Well,
it could be better, but it's better than dysentery. And we left in the late afternoon and drove home. We stopped at our favorite Oklahoma classic restaurant, Braum's. And yeah, we got back about 10 o'clock and collapsed into bed. Shelby had to wake up early this morning to do her VIP kid teaching.
I had good classes, had 3 classes this morning. One of them, the student was definitely struggling. Probably the most difficult student I've had. All he could do was really repeat whatever you said. So if you would ask him to do something, he would just repeat your request back to you instead of, reading the sentence or doing the action or something like that. But then I had another girl that, she was just there to have fun and goof off, and she was doodling all over the slideshows, but it was always relevant to what we were discussing. And she was very giggly and very happy, and that's a good student to have. So I had a great time with that one. And then as soon as my last class finished, I collapsed on the bed and took about an hour nap.
Yeah, so here we are, Monday night. Very tired, very busy. This has now been easily our longest recording episode. I'm sure there'll be lots of editing, but right now we're at 49 minutes. That's probably coming up on double any of the recording.
Goodness.
Of course, everyone who's listening to this already knows that because they already saw the timestamp. We better call it quits. See you next time.